Hey guys, what's going on? What's up? What are the things that make a great movie, right? Like, why are some movies great and some movies not great? Why are some movies amazing and then other movies aren't? What is the difference? What are they doing? Sometimes, you'll have great actors in a great movie and then you'll have the same great actors in a not so great movie. So, is it the acting? Right? What is it? Is it the characters? It could even be the same story. It could even be a sequel, right? Is it the same, it's the same story, it's a sequel, it's the same characters, it's the same actors, but why is one movie great and one movie not great? And I think there's a lot of things that go into it, and I think it's a lot more than just the actors, but it's definitely, the actors definitely matter, but I think it's a lot more than just the actors. Look at Conan the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger, as opposed to Conan the Destroyer with also Arnold Schwarzenegger. Conan the Barbarian being a great movie, Conan the Destroyer being a little bit underwhelming. People came in there wanting a great second movie to Conan the Barbarian, and they really didn't get it. And in fact, that was the end of the Conan franchise until they made another movie with Conan the Barbarian character with a different actor, and this time it was in the 2000s when they made it, and it was like the worst movie. It was like so bad. It was so bad that even people that love fantasy movies and the fantasy genre still didn't like that movie. It was just a really, really badly made movie. But if you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator, which was a great movie, and then Terminator 2, which was also a pretty good movie. Like, yeah, it was pretty good also. I thought the first one was good because it was like, I thought the first one was better because it was just like an introduction to a whole world that was very, very new to everyone that saw the movie. And the second movie was like more in that world. It was sort of like the second time you take a ride on the same roller coaster, not the first. Like, it's always the first time you take a ride on the roller coaster that's the most exciting, and the second time is less, and then less and less and less every time you do it, till you just do it for fun, and it's not even thrilling anymore, But let's look at Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer. Same story, same character, same actor, everything's the same, but why isn't it good? And I think and look at some other movies, like B movies or cult movies or movies that are like not really supposed to be great, right? Let's look at some, B movies that are just amazing. They're B movies, they're low budget, they're no-name actors, nobody knows who they are, nobody knows who the director is, nobody knows their name, no one's ever heard of the writer before, and then still, for some reason, they made a movie and people really like it. Even though the what do you call it, the special effects are horrible, the makeup is horrible, the acting is bad, the writing is bad, but for some reason something about it makes people love it. And that's the thing that people see with movies and songs and or anything else, any art, paintings or whatever. There's just something about it and people really can't put their finger on it. They really don't know exactly what it is. But it's something. Like, look at a great painting and look at a not so great painting, and you could say different things about it. You could say, well, this one looks a little bit more realistic or whatever, or this one looks like there was a lot more thought that went into it, or this one has more color, or maybe this one looks a little bit more creative or whatever it is. But really, like, if you look at two paintings, like, why is one, what is it about it that you like? What are the elements that make it great? And it's hard to tell. With movies, it's the same way. Like, what are the elements that make a movie great, and how do you know how to make a great movie? So I think the first thing that makes a great movie, and I think this is probably one of the most important things, if not the most important things, is that the people that are making the movie take it seriously and they want it to be a great movie. Like, if someone doesn't have the goal or the intention to make it a great movie, it's just not going to be great. If you look at Kevin Smith's movie Clerks, it was very low budget. It was written by him. One person wrote it. He pretty much directed it, and he pretty much acted in it. He created the whole movie himself. it was shot in black and white because he didn't have the budget for color, you know? And so, and he maxed out his credit cards in order to make the movie, but he actually got, you know, pretty good reward from it. He got a whole career in movie making and directing because of that one movie. He took a shot and he succeeded really, really well. But why is it great? Why is it great? Right? And look at Clerks 2. Was that just as good? Or was that like, that was in color, it was Clerks 2, it was like more, it wasn't more of the same thing. It was just like the second version of the first story. You know, it was like the writer going, I want to write another Clerks, but the writer is now 10 years older, 20 years older. They're different. Their whole ideas are different. Their outlook on the world is different. What they think is a good movie is different. They're already making great movies, but they want to make Clerks 2. And it's coming from a different place, you know, and it's not really, I don't think Kevin Smith intended it to be the same movie, but I did think he wanted to revisit Clerks because he just loved that first movie that came out. But what I think it is even if it's like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes or something like that, you know, or Sharknado or any of those like B movies that aren't really supposed to be amazing, I think what's the difference between a great movie, whether it's a B movie or an A movie or whatever kind of movie, or a high budget, low budget, whatever it is the people are taking it seriously. They're like, we're gonna make a great movie. And if they don't care what their budget is, they can have no budget. So they're gonna think, we're gonna make a great movie with no budget. We don't have a budget. We have bad special effects, you know, or we have great special effects. Or we have like a $10 million budget and we're gonna make a great movie. The budget doesn't really make a great movie. The budget allows you to put awesome things in the movie. Costumes, art direction, very, very good, popular, very famous actors and actresses, special effects, things like that. Like budget is, you know, like they can make the movie, they can film on location anywhere in the world because they have planes that they're just, you know, take the whole set there, take all the actors there and go to Guatemala or some like beautiful continent, whatever, and film it somewhere, you know, amazing, because they've got like a $20 million budget to spend on the movie. And obviously the higher the budget, the more you can afford to do, right? You can afford to make it longer. You can afford to hire experts. You know, you can afford to hire a very popular band for the music. You know, you can really do a lot with it. And I think that it's not really the budget that makes the movie great, because there are high budget and low budget movies that they're both great and not great. And so so it's not really the budget. I mean, I do think though the budget, people with a budget have an edge over people without the budget. They can make the movie better. It will have special, even if the movie's not that great, it'll have amazing special effects, and people will say, well, it wasn't a good movie, but it had great special effects. And that's like also saying something, you know, that's also, it's like better than, oh, that wasn't a good movie and it had like really bad special effects. You know, unless the special effects are really bad, but they were like cool, or like they were bad, but they were good somehow, you know? And I think that's the thing, that's the one thing that really does make the biggest difference, is they take it seriously. If you look at Conan the Barbarian 1 to Conan the Destroyer 2, Conan the Barbarian 1 with John Milius, who directed it, took it seriously. They did their own stunts. They didn't even like, I mean, I think they had stuntmen or whatever, but according to how they said they made the movie, they basically did their own stunts. Arnold Schwarzenegger did his own stunt. You know, he fell off of a cliff. You know, he fell like 10 feet, like from a little hill or something onto his back. And then John Milius was like saying, that's great because we have a great, you know, we shot the scene, now it's realistic, you know? And he was like, you know, and that doesn't happen in a movie. They're like, no, we can't get the actor to do that. We need a stunt guy to do that. And it doesn't look realistic, and they don't care, because as long as the actor doesn't do that, we don't want the actor to get hurt. And in Conan the Barbarian, John Milius is like, no, we want real sword fights with real swords. We don't care if it's dangerous. You know, we don't care if people get injured. We're making this real. You know, so so that was something, you know, the director wanted to make. They were actually inspired by it. They actually saw you know, the authors of the people that created Conan the Barbarian, like they were actually fans of the character, and they got a great script. They really did their research about the character. They put it together. They had a villain. They had the villain that was in the books, and they had all of the stuff. Everything in the movie came from the books and came from researching the books, researching the character, finding out how does this character actually behave, how do they play, what are the bad guys, what's the world look like, and it was just very, very accurate and very, very realistic. It was a very realistic movie. It was a very realistic sort of scene from the Age of Steel. You know, like not the Bronze Age, and there was the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, and then the Steel Age, when steel first became a thing, when people started making steel swords and armor, and that was the time where the movie took place. You know, the beginning, the dawn of steel, and now people had swords that wouldn't break, and you know, and they had armor of steel and shields, and they were warriors. They were warriors, and they used swords, and they used medieval weapons, and they were like monsters, dragons, witches, sorcerers, occultists. Like even like the bad guy was a cult leader, basically. Like who is more like vilified and like hated more and is more of like an evil character in the real world than a cult leader. You know, like a cult leader who like gets off on, you know, people, like people following them and just because they want to rule over their dominion. You know, there were kings and there were thieves and there were like little cities and stuff like that. They would ride horses. There was swordsmanship. You know, there were wizards. It was a classic Conan the Barbarian. It came right from the books. You know, like it came exactly from the books. They studied it and they knew what they were talking about. They knew the movie that they were making. They didn't just make a fantasy movie. Oh, Conan the Barbarian from the books. Okay, we'll put him in a fantasy movie, and we'll make up a movie. We'll make up a script, and we'll just use Conan. And I think that's what they did in like the Conan the Barbarian movie after the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, the one in the 2000s, where they just used the name Conan, and they made him a barbarian, and they kind of used the character, and then they just made a story around him, and that was Conan the Barbarian, you know? Whereas the first Conan the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger was, they kind of studied the whole character, the world that the character was in, what that was like, what the books were like, you know, and what a movie was like, what the comic books were like, and stuff like that. And so they really took it seriously. They did their research, and when they wrote it and they put it all together, they really wanted to make a great movie. And I think that is the difference. That's one of the differences of why a movie could be like a B movie or an A movie or whatever, that between a movie that's not good and a movie that's great. You know, movie that's not good, the people don't care. You know, oh, we're just gonna act, we're just gonna make this movie, and then, you know, that's it, right? And then we'll make a bunch of money and we'll be all happy, right? And they didn't really care about anything but, oh, let's make a movie and be movie stars and then make a bunch of money and then that'll be great, you know? No, but, you know, that's the difference between someone just not really caring about making something amazing. Because if they don't care about writing it or acting in it or directing it or anything about it, it's not going to be great. You know, it's not going to be great because no one's making it great, and no one cares if it's great. And that's one of the differences. I think that's the major difference. I don't know if it's the most important or what, but I think it's the major difference is that they're really trying to do it, right? You could tell the difference between someone who's performing and really trying to perform, like Jim Carrey. His performances, he puts everything. Robin Williams puts everything, all of his energy, everything into the performance. And he makes a great performance, right? Jim Carrey does the same thing, makes an amazing performance. Rodney Dangerfield did that. He was just like going off and off and off, you know, making a great performance, trying real hard, writing comedy, writing stuff that makes people laugh. And And you could tell, like, they're, you know, whether it's someone who just doesn't care about their performance, just like delivering a few lines, you know, they put some, like, you know, lines together, they're delivering it, but they're not putting everything into it. They don't care if it comes out good or not. They're just doing their job and whatever. You know, it's not the same thing. And I think that the other thing was, it just seems like, I don't know if it's true or not, but it just seems like in a great movie, there's usually a love story of some kind, okay? It just seems like every great movie, there's a love story in the movie. And I think it just for some reason, no, it's not that every love story is good. It's a lot of love stories are good, you know, romantic comedies, whatever, but, you know, it just seems like great movies have love stories in them for some reason, right? There's love stories in them. Conan the Barbarian had a love story. Conan the Destroyer did not have a love story. Like, Conan the Barbarian, he fell in love with the girl warrior. Right, what's her name? Like, the girl warrior that was fighting with him in the movie. He fell in love with her. She fell in love with him. She gave her life to save his. And then she came back, you know, as a Valkyrie to save his life after that. She saved his life twice. First, when he was, you know, being carried away by demons, she made the pact that she would give her life away to save his with the demons. And then the second one was where he was fighting those goons, you know, Thulsa Doom's goons that were like coming after him. And the guy was about to like swing the sword and hit him in the head with the sword. And she popped out of nowhere. This is, you know, as a Valkyrie, you know, and she swiped her sword and, you know, and kind of hit him with a blast of light, and he was blinded for a second, and it gave Conan a chance to stand back up and like strike him down with his sword. So twice she saved his life, and he was in love with her. And in Conan the Destroyer, he was like, she wasn't alive anymore. She gave her life to save his, but you know, he was promised that he would see her again, and he never did. And where it started out with a little bit of a love story, because, you know, the evil queen promised that she would bring her back and that he would see her again, but she lied and she couldn't do it, and she didn't do it, you know. But there wasn't an actual love story in Conan the Destroyer. If you look at the Matrix love story, Neo and then that woman, right? I don't remember her name, you know, like, right? I remember Neo because, you know, that's the main character. But then he fell in love with her. Even like in the other Matrixes that weren't as good, the sequels of the Matrixes, also the love story carried on, and that was actually really good. That happened in Terminator. Love story, Sarah Connor with the guy that was coming after the Terminator to save Sarah Connor. And that love story carried over into the sequels, right? It carried over into the sequels. So that love story continued. So in Terminator 2, the love story continued. I think there was some kind of love story. I don't know if there was still a love story or whatever it is, but the first one had a love story. And the second one, they did a lot of other stuff besides that. They put a cool, like, robot, a guy that turned into molten metal and then like was a shapeshifter, and that was kind of weird. A lot of stories, you know, a lot of stories had romance in it. A lot of amazing. If you look at the best movies ever made that are considered good movies, it had a love story. Back to the Future, love story. Back to the Future had a love story. It was yeah, it was a big love story. It was huge. It was, what's his name? It was, what's his name? McFly, and then the woman, and he was trying to get his parents to fall in love because she fell in love with him by mistake. And he was trying to get McFly to, you know, get up the courage to ask her out for the dance and stuff like that, and he did, and they fell in love, and then everything happened really, really well. It was a love story there. And there was the bad guy that was like Biff, you know, who was the other guy, who was like competing with McFly, and like was like, it was sort of like, you know, he liked the girl and she didn't like him because he was a you know, he was an asshole. Whatever. And so like that was love story there. If you look at like all of the best movies, they have love stories. I'm not saying that put a love story in a movie and it's great, but I'm saying that a lot of movies, Avatar had a love story. Like every freaking good movie has a love story. And I'm not talking about like just good movies, but like the best movies. Avatar, Conan the Barbarian, The Matrix, a Terminator. I mean, like all of these great movies had love stories. A lot of them. Like there's always a love story in it. And I think love stories really do make a great, like they're just like when they're in a movie, they make a great movie. Love stories. Also, I gotta say, I think there is something that makes a movie great, and it's the soundtrack. When it's got good sound, when it's, music by what, like Conan the Barbarian had like instrumental, I don't know if it was like classical Valkyrie music or something like that. Great music. A lot of the best movies have a great soundtrack. Great music and stuff like that. I'm not gonna like say that like, obviously like some movies don't have a love story, they don't have a soundtrack. If you look at certain movies like Clockwork Orange or whatever, but Clockwork Orange is a joke movie. It's not meant to be a serious movie. It's a funny, silly, campy, great movie, but it's not to be taken seriously at all. And so you wouldn't put a love story in it. You wouldn't put, great. They actually did put good music in it. They put Beethoven music into there. So they actually had a pretty good music. If Beethoven isn't good, then who is good, right? He's considered one of the best musicians that ever made music. And so I think the score, the soundtrack, is one thing that make a great movie. And I really do think also how seriously everyone takes their job in, if you've seen like bad science fiction, you could see that like, I don't mean bad science, I mean like, badly, like very, very low budget science fiction where they made it with like no budget. You could see like everything was done very, very low budget. I mean, the special effects suck, they look horrible. But it's intense. It's serious. You get into the characters, you get into the story, you get into like what's going on. And I think it's because everyone just takes their job super seriously to make a great movie. And then you could tell a movie that's not good, where the people don't look like they're really focused on what they're doing. They just like doing it and not really thinking about it too much. Like the actors, the actresses, they're really focused. They're focused on their lines, on delivering it properly, on interpreting the lines, interpreting what is supposed to happen in the movie, and kind of like, delivering their lines because they understand what the movie's about, and they understand like what the meaning is. It's got to have a meaning, right? If they understand the meaning of the movie, so they're doing their part to express that meaning, to communicate that meaning. They're very, very serious about their role, and they're very serious, and they really take into consideration, really a lot into consideration about how to say their lines and how to say the role and what it's supposed to mean, and what the purpose of what they're saying like means and does to the story. They're very serious about it, and they take their job seriously, and they don't care if they have to do a scene 20 times. They will do it 20 times, and they will get it right, and they will get it perfect. And they understand the movie, they understand what's good about it, and they like it. The people, the actors like the movie, the actresses like the movie, the director likes the movie, the producer, everybody that's involved in the movie likes the movie, wants to be there, and wants to make a great, amazing movie. And the director takes their job seriously. The musicians, the writers take their job very, very seriously and write the script and write a great movie. That's the first thing you get. Even if it's like not a high budget movie, you write a great movie. Even like if you look at Jack Black in School of Rock, or back to the that thing in School of Rock, there was a love story. He fell in love with the principal. I don't know if he really fell in love with the principal, but they had a thing, But anyway, but that's the thing. Like Jack Black takes his roles super seriously. Like he's funny and whatever, but he takes what he's doing. He takes his art super seriously. He takes what he's doing super seriously. Like he's super serious about making an amazing movie. You know, like when he does the Tenacious D thing, he's very, very super serious. He wants to make a masterpiece of a song, and he wants to make a masterpiece of a movie and a masterpiece of acting, and that's why he's successful. That's why he's so good, because he wants to be successful. He wants to be good. He wants to do a great job. The writers want to write a great movie. The directors want to direct a great movie. The actors want to act in a great movie, to make a great performance. They don't care if the budget is $20, you know, for the movie. They're gonna make a great performance because that's who they are, that's what they do, they're the actors and everything like that. So I really do think those are really like some of, there's obviously a whole bunch of other factors, but those are really the main factors, the main things that make an amazing movie. You know, the intention of everyone trying their hardest to make a great movie, and certain things like love stories would just seem to happen in great movies all the time. You know, and sort of like, and music, and the music and the soundtrack of it. And you could tell, like, you know, always like a good soundtrack always makes a better movie. It always makes a better movie, because I think people are just like, they listen to the sound of it, you know, whether it's just music playing, or it's like the sound effects as the scenes are playing and whatever. Sound makes people emotional and gets people's emotions moving, and you kind of feel the movie a little bit more with sound. And but I think that the number one thing definitely is that, you know, everyone involved in the movie, the actors, the writers, the directors, the producers, the musicians, everyone, the artists, take it super, super seriously, and they want to, and they intend to make a super great movie. And I think when everyone really has their heart in it, then the movie comes out really good sometimes. Maybe it doesn't, but you could tell that everyone did their best, and you could tell that they all like tried their hardest. And a lot of times, you know, people succeed and they really do make an amazing movie. So that's what I think makes a great movie. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, and comment, and subscribe and like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in another video later.